Made on Ridgeway Sports Podcast, episode 81. Hunter Keister back with
the K-Mac. Let's go. Episode 81. Let's go.
We are back. Another week in sports.
Yeah.
4th of July weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know we had a great weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And
a banger.
hope you guys enjoy your 4th of July coming up on Tuesday. And stay safe as well. But we will get into it now. We have a good show lined up, highlighted around some NHL with the NHL draft and free agency that has been going on, and some UFC to close out this podcast. We're going to get it started. NHL 2023 draft from the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. I was lucky enough to go to the first round, and I witnessed the selection of Connor Bedard live and in person. That was really just a cool thing to see. Drafts are really cool, you know. It's cut and dry. You really have to be a fan of the sport to enjoy drafts. But it's definitely cool. It's cool to see, you know, these guys with their amazing suits and watch these guys get drafted and
drip.
Right. That was a really cool experience. But we are just going to highlight my top 4 or 5 drafts from this year's draft that went on. So I think we'll start from the bottom. We'll start at 5, and we'll start with the Philadelphia Flyers, who took the chance on the Russian-signed Matvei Michkov, who is under a KHL contract until 2026. So then they won't be able to have him until at least then, if not longer. So that's why this guy fell down the board a bit. But he is supposed to be ranked number 2 in true talent, behind Bedard, and he's closer to Bedard than Fantilli or Carlson. So he's a really high-level guy. Just that uncertainty. That's why his draft kind of dropped a little bit down the board. But
draft stock, yeah.
Definitely still a really good pick for the Flyers, and I felt like it definitely deserved to make it in here. The Flyers then went with Oliver Bonk at 22 overall, who is a defenseman projected to be maybe a 4th or a 5th, you know, depth kind of guy. Definitely something you need, and he fills a role, so I guess it's a decent pick. Michkov's pick is really, you know, that's just incredible for them. They get him a guy that's so highly ranked, you know. They're a team that's in the start of their rebuild, so they can afford to wait for a guy of his talent for a couple of years, and they can continue to try to build a team around him for when he comes. So definitely a good pick. You know, you definitely don't know. What if this guy just says, I'm going to stay in Russia, and he never comes? And that's really what the biggest risk is that there is a chance that he could never come to the NHL. But if or when he does, the Philadelphia Flyers have his rights. Good enough for them, and
big move.
I think they'll slide into that spot for a top draft class, just getting him and the value that they got him at. So, okay, let's move on to the Buffalo Sabres now, as they draft Zach Benson. He was 5th on the true talent. He got drafted at 13 overall. He was a prospect from the U.S. development team. Absolutely a top 10 player. I was surprised when he made it out of there. And at 13, I think Benson really re-kicks off this Buffalo Sabres new rebuild as they lose out on Eichel and the guys of their past that they had with that rebuild. They've all moved on, and Buffalo has to restart with Zach Benson, and they drafted him at 13, and I really like that pick for them. It doesn't look like they did anything else. They got Anton Wahlberg and Maxim Stribach, 2nd-round values. So they didn't really do, the Sabres didn't really do anything else, but I feel like the value of Benson at 13 is good enough to give them a top
success.
Spot and a passing grade for this draft. Let's take a look at the Carolina Hurricanes, and I do believe they had a nice draft of their own. They don't pick until 30th overall. They take Bradley Nadeau, one of the best shooters in the draft, potential to be a 30-plus goal scorer in some of these scouts' eyes that I'm looking over this guy. Potential to be that 30 goal scorer. And then Jaden Perron is a very skillful winger, but he's only 5'8". So he's a borderline first-line talent. that got drafted in the 3rd round because you really don't know how a 5'8" guy can translate in the NHL.
Right.
But
High concerns.
If he does, it's a steal, especially in the 3rd round. So, they get Nadeau, who is a highly ranked goal scorer, exactly what Carolina needs, as they really are trying to make that push towards the Stanley Cup. They are right there. They've been there the last couple seasons, right around the conference finals, and sniffing around that Stanley Cup final, and I think maybe this will be the year they can finally break through and at least make it. I definitely like the way they're trending, and they started off this year nice with a great draft. So I'll give them that. We'll move on to the number 2 team, and in my opinion, that is the Blue Jackets. So the Columbus Blue Jackets, once again, add to their pool of maybe 5 Michigan players, and they select back-to-back Michigan players. As Anaheim, we just kind of have to talk about that. I'm going to just kind of rain on your parade a little bit. Leo Carlsson is a great player. I like Leo Carlsson, right? I thought he was a top 5 guy. I like him as a player. You just set that man up to fail so bad, because I don't think there was any chance he was better than Fantilli. And I might be biased. I might be biased. But I watched a lot more Fantilli, obviously, than Carlsson. With that being said, I just don't think you can tell me that he's better. And, Fantilli really wanted to be in Columbus. He had said that already, dating back to way before the draft. And he even mentioned all the Michigan leadership that is already there, and that's where he wanted to be. And Anaheim passes on him at 2, and I think he goes into a really, really good team. They just get Mike Babcock, who is like a cursed NHL, he's like not a cursed coach, but he's like a banished. He's done some shady stuff as a head coach, but he is an absolutely incredible coach. And Columbus hires him. So they take Fantilli at 3, and just that, he's my number 2, obviously behind Bedard. So just getting him at number 3, that value is absolutely insane. And then, right before my Blackhawks get a chance to pick, the Columbus Blue Jackets come behind that, and they take Gavin Brindley, Fantilli's line mate and teammate at Michigan this past season, and they'll take him at 34 overall. And he was a borderline first-line guy who some thought might come out of the back of the 1st round. So those 2 picks are just absolutely insane. You love that. They have chemistry already going to Columbus. They joined a whole bunch of guys from Michigan that they're now, and the Michigan takeover in the Columbus Pros is in full effect. And I don't know, I heard ESPN say Columbus made them Blue Jackets, so that's all I got to say. Sounds music to my ears.
Funny. It's so funny.
Music to my ears. It looks like they went with William Whitelaw, who may be first-round talent, needs tough love, some development in his game. They got him at 66 overall.
Yeah.
And then Andrew Strawman is a defenseman who is 4 or 5 upside. Great value in round number 4. And they draft Tyler Peedle in the last pick of the draft, the very last pick. They trade for it.
Sure relevant.
And they think he may have NHL talent as well. So I think that the Blue Jackets for sure had a solid draft in their own right, and for sure deserve to be up near the top in the top draft class conversations. But we will go to number 1. I saved the best for last, and I truly believe that you cannot even argue this with me. You can't even call me biased on this one. The Chicago Blackhawks, in my opinion, had the best draft in 2023. They were one of the only 2 or 3 teams that got an A+ grade. Philadelphia got an A+ for Michkov, and I think that's good for the value, I guess. But I don't know if the rest of their draft deserved an A+. Because honestly, Chicago, I think their draft top to bottom was good. And Kurt will hear me. He's been hearing me say this for about the whole week now. My teams that I've watched before draft, they just don't go good. They've never went good notoriously. Nope. As I watched the NFL more growing up, they never went the way that I wanted. The players that were there that I wanted, they were never drafted by the teams that I wanted. Last year the tide kind of changed as Chicago drafted the young Michigan center in the first round, and so that was really awesome. And then they come behind with just an incredible draft in 2023. Obviously, Bedard, generational talent, all this pressure, 17-year-old playing up against 18, 19-year-olds, just dominating. Then he goes to the big, like the NCAA had the tournament, whatever, World Junior, or Canada has the World Junior Championship. And he's playing up, I guess he played up in age, and he just completely took over this tournament. And at that point, that's when the debate between Fantilli and Bedard was over, and basically Bedard was locked to be the number one.
Number one, yeah.
So, just incredible for Chicago to lose out on their, a lot of these guys that shaped their team and won them all these cups through the 2010s. Duncan Keith, Seabrook, Patrick Kane, Taves, guys of that nature. And, you really think the Chicago Blackhawks are getting ready to hit one of the darkest eras that they've had in a long, long time.
Long time.
And instead, they get the number 1 overall draft pick. They've made some key signings and a trade that we'll talk about that's really bolstered this team. And I think this team, I don't know if they'll be great, but they are absolutely 100% watchable now. And I am 100% stoked. And that's just off the number 1 pick. Okay, that's just off the number 1 pick. We'll go to number 19 overall. Apparently, Kyle Davidson, this was cool. A little tidbit. He was in the streets of the draft, disguised as a person with just regular street clothes. Kyle from Chicago. He went out and talked to reporters and disguised himself as a regular person.
Oh, wow.
And then they came back, and at the draft, they, showed it and showed how he was. And, a couple people didn't recognize him. And then the next day after the draft, he had a Kyle from Chicago shirt on. So this guy is absolutely a great GM. And I was mad because I think he came from baseball. But I'll tell you what, this GM's been here a year or two, and he's easily one of the best in the NHL right now. It's insane.
Wow.
I was completely wrong. Here's this thing too, right? I love Bedard. I wanted Fantilli being as big of a Michigan fan. But then Oliver Moore. I'm talking up this guy at the draft. He's another United States national team member. He is on his way, headed to Minnesota. So we're going to have to play against him and watch him fly around with those guys, with those Minnesota Golden Gophers, for hopefully only a season maybe, and then he'll go straight to the pros. That's my hope at this point, because Minnesota's always been really good, especially at hockey, and Oliver Moore, he flies. He's a skater. I think he can pair nicely with that center core. Bedard's still going to play center. The thought was maybe he would play winger. He's only 5'9", but he held his own and showed enough to at least show that he's going to at least start out as a center in the NHL. So Oliver Moore could go onto that line with Bedard or Nazar. That 1-2 center core down the middle. Chicago is looking really, really good, man. I am
Signed up well.
super happy.
Signed up well.
Yep. And then that's what I mean. And I like this Oliver Moore kid so much. And I was saying at the draft, come on, Kyle, trade up. Come on, Kyle, trade up. I want to see this guy get drafted by us.
Aggressive.
Be aggressive. And then it comes out, he was going all day trying to trade up for this guy. And nobody really wanted him, I guess. So he didn't have to move. So he doesn't give up any draft capital.
That's a plus.
He gets the guy that he was trying to move up for all day anyways, and we stay at 19. Perfect, literally perfect
game plan.
Dream scenario. Game plan went crazy. Oliver Moore was ranked 9th on the Bleacher Report board, and he goes 19.
Oh, that's great value.
Yep.
That's great value.
And then Nick Lardis was 32nd on the board. They got him at 67th. So that's tremendous value there. And he was a part of a couple of solid day 2 acquisitions. These guys say it well with it was a great 2 days and a great start to the rebuild for the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. The draft went extremely well, and they had the top draft in my opinion. So I think that'll do it for the NHL draft portion, as we just wanted to highlight our best classes. Kurt, what do you think?
My main takeaways?
Yeah, what are your main takeaways?
I feel like when I look at this draft, really towards the first round, more or less, I think the things that surprised me was the fact that Fantilli didn't go too. That definitely caught my attention for sure.
We were shocked.
I was definitely surprised. I was kind of just keeping up to date on it on Twitter and just social media because I was like, oh, well, he's down there, so let's see what's cracking down there. Obviously, number one, no brainer. You go with Bedard there. And then Fantilli at 2 was surprising. And then it's just funny, he ends up going to Columbus at 3 to join the rest of the Michigan crew. And just the complete opposite end of the spectrum as far as what team in Columbus.
I was like, man, I'm never going to get to see him play in the NHL. He's going to be banished on Anaheim. And now,
stuck out west.
And now he adds to another reason why I like to watch Columbus. So...
And then just keeping up as far as like when Chicago made that pick at 19, a lot of people were saying, kind of like along the lines what you were saying, like they had a top draft. So that's really my main point. Michigan going to Columbus, Chicago's restocking, and some missed picks.
100%. Well, then we will get into the moves, and I'll really just highlight the big ones. As I have
for the free agency period that just started.
Yeah, for the free agency period. So on Sunday, so far, as it is 8:30 now, we have seen some big guys get signed. Yamamoto goes to the Seattle Kraken as they start to retool after losing some guys. So from Sunday, obviously today, July 2nd, the big moves that have went down. Tyler Bertuzzi was on Boston. Goes to Toronto. Really surprising there. I thought Boston would make a better push to sign him. I mean, he only signed a 1-year deal there. 1 year, $5.5 million. But if you want to win a cup, if you're trying to cup chase, I don't know if Toronto was a move there, but a little questionable there. I'm looking over. Elias Anderson goes to Montreal. That's a good sign on a 1-year, 2-way contract. Calvin DeHaan gets signed by Tampa Bay. Jack Johnson re-signed with Colorado. And it looks like Winnipeg got Kuznetsov from San Jose. That's a defenseman for a defenseman trade. Yeah, that's a defenseman for a defenseman trade that went down. And that's pretty much it from Sunday. Go back to Saturday. And it looks like Florida locked up William Lockwood, 2-year contract. Let's see, moving down. Florida trades Anthony Duclair to San Jose. So a big piece of their success in this past playoffs was traded to San Jose for a 2025 fifth-round pick. 2025 fifth-round pick and center Steven Lorentz, who I believe is a pretty decent prospect. But that still doesn't really make sense. I don't know if Duclair needed a contract and didn't want to sign or what the deal was with that. But Florida, that's a big loss, honestly.
It is.
Shane Gostisbehere goes to Detroit on a 1-year contract. Let's see. I know the Rangers. Yeah, the Rangers made some big moves. They get Eric Gustafsson. Detroit brings back the Michigan Wolverine JT Compher. He'll go to the Red Wings on a 5-year contract. Islanders re-sign their goalie Ilya Shesterkin to an 8-year contract extension as they get their goalie, who's been the only reason they've been halfway decent, honestly. Jonathan Drouin, he was a crazy, highly touted prospect. Never really came into his own. Colorado picked him up on a 1-year deal. See, Galchenyuk goes to Arizona, moving it down. Tristan Jarry re-signs with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Here we go. Alright, so Chicago, as I mentioned earlier, the Seattle Kraken kind of lose out on a lot of their guys that ended up going to free agency, and one of them is Ryan Donato. Chicago shored him up, 2-year contract, adds another center, should be a top, probably going to be in our top 6 for this coming season, and looks like Chicago just kind of trying to make this team a little more competent for this season. Give Bedard some guys to play around, right? Can't go wrong with it. I'm not mad at the signing. New York signed Tyler Pitlick to a 1-year deal. He's a center. Tampa Bay signed Luke Glendening. He's a really good center. Ryan O'Reilly, a longtime NASCAR Predator, re-signs 4-year contract.
The free agency started July 1st.
So then we go back. Only thing that happened on July 1st, Jonathan Quick goes to the Rangers to be their backup. That's a big signing for them. That opened up free agency. He's older up there, but he can still play. He showed that last year that he can still be a good goalie, as he got done real bad by his longtime LA Kings. Yeah, I think that'll do it. That's the bigger moves. Goalie James Reiner goes to Detroit. I don't think I really missed anything. Gustav Nyquist goes to Nashville. So they've made some decent signings as Nashville tried to retool a little bit. Max Pacioretty goes to the Washington Capitals. And that's not a bad signing at all. Detroit gets Daniel Sprong. Good signing. Arizona, Jason Zucker. Is that it? I think that might have been it. Oh, that Brossoit that got taken over from... He gave up his starting job when he got injured to Hill for the Golden Knights. He signed in Winnipeg. He signed an 1-year deal. Yeah, I think that'll pretty much do it. The bigger moves to the first couple days of the free agency. I'm going to look up the trades. Alright, we are back, bringing it back. We're going to talk about the NHL trades that happened. But the one signing that I did forget, I guess it was part of a signing trade, but arch nemesis Corey Perry from the Anaheim Ducks played against Chicago all through their 2010 runs, gave us hell. Incredible player, so much respect for him, but hated that team, so hated his guts pretty much growing up. It's absolutely wild to see him come play for Chicago, and he gives some really good veteran leadership. I don't know how much he's going to have to give on the ice, but that veteran leadership and those pointers that he'll be able to give to Connor Bedard are second to none to me, to be honest. Yeah. And an absolutely incredible move for the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, we were all kind of like, what? Like, we couldn't believe that he would even sign there, but Chicago's a historic franchise, and I think in Corey Perry's shoes, it makes sense. He gets to play for a good team with winning traditions and coach up some young guys that desperately need the coaching. So I don't think it's a bad idea. After that move, we can go on to the trade, and I guess we'll just start with the basic ones. Starting at the end of June, the Avalanche trade. They acquired Johansson from the Nashville Predators, longtime Nashville Predator, and they give up Alex Galchenyuk. So that was just a pretty forward for forward trade. Older guy for older guy. I don't know. Maybe Johansson just couldn't come to a deal with Nashville and had to get shipped out of there, right? But that's crazy to see one of their longtime guys get shipped out just for a player-for-player kind of trade. Shows the loyalty in the NHL these days, right, Kurt?
There is none.
Right.
There is none.
Alright, I guess we'll move up into the huge trade that Chicago made on June 26th as they acquired both forwards Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno from the Boston Bruins for defensemen Alex Regula and Ian Mitchell, two really young guys that I was pretty excited to see in Chicago that I thought would be part of this rebuild, but I think that they were really just a part of the Blackhawks. No longer were in that timetable, to be honest, and they kind of just they couldn't wait for them. They couldn't wait for them to develop and become NHL guys, so they get flipped to Boston for star forward Taylor Hall. He played on the Edmonton Oilers with Nugent Hopkins, and he was a very high draft pick by Edmonton. He's outstanding, a great player. He instantly becomes a first liner for us to pair with Bedard. He is definitely Bedard's running mate for at least year one, and just a really good trade in my opinion. As Davidson, this really kicked off. I was like, okay, Davidson, I think you might know what you're doing, because he really flipped two good defensemen that weren't going to be ready for a couple years and made them into one superstar winger and another one that's at least in your top six, probably second, third line. Mm-hmm. So filled some big needs that you needed to make this team really feasible in year one with Bedard. And I love this move. What do you think, Kurt, making this trade for a star winger?
I think it provides depth and building around your own prospect that you think is going to be your future and your current reason why you're going to be successful. So I think it's a good move.
For sure. The next big one was what was this? This was 2019 first round pick Newhook from the Avalanche goes to Montreal. He gets traded for defenseman Fairbrother, a first round pick, and a second round pick in the 2023 NHL draft. So former first round pick leaves the Avalanche, goes to a new home in Montreal, and Montreal picks up a first, a second, and a defenseman. So I feel like it's a good move. I feel like Newhook was really, really good. I feel like you might want to get a little bit more than that, but I guess second and third. And this draft was a good one, so I guess you can't argue with them stocking up on picks for this draft, right?
No.
And then that same day, the LA Kings acquire stud forward Pierre-Louis Dubois from the
what a name.
Winnipeg Jets. He gets traded for forward Velarde, Rasmus Kupari, Alex Lafalo, and a second round pick. So it seems like those were... I know I've heard that Kupari name, and Velarde kind of sounds like a name that I've heard as guys that are coming up prospect-wise. So it seemed like that was just another... They couldn't come to a deal, and Dubois has been there for a while and hasn't won anything. And now tries to become... make the LA Kings back into the winners. And for Winnipeg, they continue their rebuild with a couple of good players and a good pick in next year's draft.
It's all a lot for one person.
Right. Yeah, but that just shows you how good...
How valuable he was.
He really was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Looks like goalie Blackwood goes from the Devils to the Sharks for a 6th round pick. The Devils also acquired Tyler Toffoli from the Calgary Flames for Igor Sharagovich and a 3rd round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Ross Colton was acquired by the Avalanche from the Lightning for a 2nd round pick. He is a good prospect from Tampa to Colorado, so good one for them. Riley Smith goes from the Golden Knights to the Pittsburgh Penguins for a 3rd round pick on the 28th. The Blackhawks acquire forward Josh Bailey and a 2nd round pick in the 2026 NHL draft for future considerations. Josh Bailey was waived by the Chicago Blackhawks, so he will not play for them, and he will be free to sign wherever he pleases. The Red Wings acquire Keister Yamamoto and Kostin from the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for future considerations. So I don't know what they gave up.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I think it's like kind of like cash. How they doing that? I think, but for what I don't know what they could have given up. But these guys were 2 really good guys from Edmonton. Yamamoto has been there for a while, and Kostin was a good up and coming guy. So I like that. I like that trade a lot, and I was actually really mad when I seen this come through for Detroit. I didn't want to see them make this move. I thought it was a really good one for them. The 29th also saw that Corey Perry trade that I talked about for just a 7th round pick as well. So good leadership, good trade, and you only give up a 7th. So we move on to the July 1st, and Colin Miller goes to the Devils from the Dallas Stars. He was on the Dallas Stars for a long time. 2025 5th round pick. So July 1st also saw that star forward Anthony Duclair go from the Florida Panthers to the Sharks for a 5th round pick and Steven Laurent. Huge move for the Florida Panthers. Can't believe they would give up somebody so key to their success, but just another tail of the tape, and it's just a business, and they can't come to a deal, so out he goes, just like that. Somebody you think that could be like a cornerstone or a guy you build around. Out he goes, right, Kurt? What do you think about that? Crazy, huh?
Nobody's job is safe.
Brighton.
Nobody see it as an ever hot.
I think that
It's crazy.
I think that for somebody of such high stature, only a 5th round pick in 2025 and a forward is kind of a bargain for the Sharks.
It is.
I think that's a great trade. And July 2nd, we saw the Winnipeg Jets acquires Kazib from the Sharks for defenseman Leon Gwanke. And that is the only trade that's come through on July 2nd. Everybody must be enjoying this holiday weekend, and so it's just going to be a wait-and-see game as the NHL offseason
Continues.
All right. I think that'll do it for the NHL side. Kurt can kind of get in here some more with the UFC that we saw from the UFC Apex. Sean Strickland versus, what was that, Amir
Magomedov.
Amir Magomedov?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let me get that card pulled up. Kurt, let's just hear your initial reactions as I'm doing that to this UFC card.
Yeah, I'll just start off with the first fight of the main card because we got to watch the entire card yesterday, which was 6 bouts compared to 5, which caught us off guard, to be honest with you. I didn't know there was going to be 6.
100%.
So what went up with the first fight, which was a finish in the first round, Nursleton ended up finishing Bruno Ferreira in the first round within a minute 17. This fight was really fast. I mean, these guys were just in there throwing. I believe Nursleton is the tallest fighter in the middleweight division. That dude's like 6'6", super lengthy, and Bruno was like 5'10". He was 6 inches shorter than it. They didn't look anything close in weight. It was crazy.
This was the one where he was gigantic.
Yeah, the dude looked way bigger than the other guy.
Yeah, Nursleton came in.
Yeah, because Bruno was like 5'10", and Nursleton was like 6'5".
Right. Short notice for Nursleton, and he comes in and just cleans up Bruno.
Cleans him up.
He's fought 40 times. He was very emotional. It's super cool to see. Fought his entire life. Pretty much made a living doing it. Finally made it to the UFC. Short notice, gets the call, comes in, fights a guy, Bruno, been there before, and has UFC experience, and takes him on the first round. Absolutely.
Rather swiftly. And he won performance of the night.
Performance on the night for that. Cool to see him also get a bonus, coming in on short notice and picking up that win. Incredible. Like Kurt said, I couldn't believe they shouldn't have been in the same octagon if I would have just looking at them. I can't believe they weighed the same. But Bruno, not much to say. Just gets absolutely cleaned up. He gets he was throwing some kicks nicely, and then finally Nursleton just catches one, and all it was a straight.
He caught it. He caught the kick and then landed it right.
He caught the kick and landed a straight punch and just put him out with that. It was absolutely wild. Couldn't believe it. Folding him up, first round KO. We'll move on
to the second fight. Which was
Bonfim!
Lightweight bout. Bonfim versus Benoit St. Dennis.
I love that name. Bonfim.
Bonfim.
What a name.
Was absolutely getting kicked.
Yeah.
Kicked.
Bonfim was getting
big kicked. Kicked to the stomach, the legs. He was throwing flying knees. This fight was back and forth.
This fight was a really good fight.
Back and forth, but I definitely think Benoit was getting the better of him in the first round. 100%. This was also a first round submission.
Yep.
With a rear naked choke that Benoit ended up having to reapply and readjust, and then he was able really to crank it out.
100%.
And Bonfim was forced to tap there towards the end of round 1.
Especially on a Brazilian, that's such good, shows his good BJJ, and like you said, how he was able to readjust and just really worked that ground game nicely, and then found the submission.
I personally thought Bonfim was going to win with the finish, but he ended up losing. That was a pretty exciting fight as well, which ended in the first round.
100%.
So that takes us to the third bout, which was a women's flyweight bout that ended up having Lipsky winning the bout with a decision.
Split decision. Super close.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with this decision here. I thought she was landing the better of the bigger of the strikes, stayed more busy, and really kept the pressure going and ended up winning this bout 2-1. And a pretty decent match, I would say.
I'm going to kind of challenge you on that because I'm looking at it with the breakdown. Grotto, total strikes, 100.
Yeah.
50%. Lipsky, 81, 49%. Grotto did try for a lot of takedowns and was very, 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 very well defended by Lipsky.
0 of 7.
0 of 7.
Yeah.
So that's very dominating, and I think you can.
That played a factor.
Yeah, it definitely plays a factor in the score column, but especially with Lipsky also able to successfully get a takedown where Grotto was not, and then significant strikes was 66 to 85 in favor of Grotto.
Yeah.
So definitely back and forth. Can see the split decision, and I think this was a close fight. Lipsky, I would probably have given it to her too, but it definitely looked close. Super rated in. We'll move to Max Griffin taking on Michael Morales.
Yeah.
This was the start of my parlay, as I'll get into with a little bit of our sports betting that we've been doing through our social medias. If you guys have been seeing that, daily bets have been going up, and we've been doing really good with that. So the start of my picks tonight, I did a 4-pick parlay. Morales on the money line over Max Griffin. Morales undefeated, 14-0 I believe before this one. Probably to 15-0 it should have been.
Yeah.
And Griffin, a veteran, really good fighter. Definitely didn't think Morales was going to win this fight easily, and he definitely didn't.
No, this was back and forth, but I definitely think Morales was putting the pressure on him with a lot of 1-2s.
Yep.
Griffin was rocked a lot, but he was still hanging in there, not going down easy, as this fight did end up going to a decision where Morales won. I thought this was probably one of the better fights of the night that we watched, as it was pretty much back and forth. But I just remember Morales just kept clocking him.
Yeah,
walking him down.
That forward pressure, that constant movement, and just really show that he belongs and that he can take out a guy that's experienced and maybe a little bit past his prime. But those experienced guys can put some of them younger cats in trouble, as we've seen with obviously the Ultimate Fighter.
Definitely. Griffin he didn't get any. He was 0 for 8 on takedowns, similar to the last bout.
Yeah,
and he got completely outstruck as well.
Yeah, Morales. That's why I was really big on him, because when I was doing my research for my bets, Morales is a Ecuadorian Olympic champion wrestler, and 0 of 8 is 0 of 8, and shows that off to perfection. 73 total strikes landed compared to 39, only 37%. Like Kurt said, rocked a lot. I thought that good control by Morales and got a good.
Yeah, they were slugging.
Good.
Throwing some haymakers.
Yeah, it was close, but I agree with the unanimous decision win for Morales, and that got my picks off to. They got my picks off to that start for the 4-pick parlay that I made. Next fight was
the co-main event.
The co-main event, Damir Asmagulov taking on Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson. This was a really good fight. I loved this fight. I thought it was going to be very close. Damir was like the Kazakhstan, fought a whole bunch. Veteran. Dawson with the one, maybe, I believe he had one loss. And
yeah, he had one loss, but it was in the UFC though, so he's undefeated in the UFC.
Okay. I must have missed that. I definitely didn't know that, but Grant Dawson undefeated in the UFC was a good fight. I thought that Damir may give him problems, and I think that he just kind of held it on as well. I mean, he wasn't always in control, but definitely, for the most part, was in control.
Yeah, Dawson pretty much was in control of this fight.
Damir got the reversal on the ground. Significant strikes, only 13 compared to 30 for Dawson. Yeah, just
this wasn't very active.
Right.
Really wasn't able to. So, and this was also your second leg in your parlay.
Yes, I did pick Dawson on the money line.
And he was the underdog.
Yeah, he was in this one, yep. They gave him a little bit of plus money, and I jumped right on top of it at 125. He'll get the win. That'll take us to the middleweight main event. Sean Strickland, Abus Magomedov. Strickland's been very active. Just a warrior in the UFC. He's fought a whole bunch. Looking like he's starting to make his climb toward the top of that middleweight division. What was he, number 7 going into this fight? And this was just a fight that I'll let Kirk kind of talk about some more.
Yeah.
He picked it.
I definitely had a feeling that Strickland was going to win this fight, though I wasn't thinking it'd be within the first 2 rounds. I thought this would go further. But let's just talk about kind of how this went down. Start off with round 1, where Magomedov just put it on Sean Strickland. I remember we watched it. We thought that Strickland was just being a little hesitant. His unorthodox fighting stance is definitely different. Reminds me of Floyd's, which is more of a boxing type. The first round, Magomedov just put it on Strickland, putting the pressure on him, throwing loads of volume, kicks, high kicks. I mean, just putting the pressure on. And it definitely gave me a nervous feeling heading into round 2. And in round 2, Magomedov just completely fell apart, became a statue. It looked like he
gassed out.
He blew himself out in the first round. He looked like the entire script literally flipped in this round 2, where Strickland was the more aggressive fighter. Looks like he just kind of was patient that first round. Was like, just wait it out, and then second round really put it on him. And that's exactly what he did. He put the pressure on Magomedov. He kept rocking him, though he wouldn't commit and just finish him off. He was really being patient about that.
Yeah, he just was being real meticulous, being real smart about it. Obviously, Abus, dangerous fighter.
He kept rocking him back into the octagon, and so at the end of round 2, he's finally able to put him down and finished him with just consecutive strikes, undefended. And he gets the big win. And I gotta say, the second round I just was not ready for that script to flip like that.
No
way. It caught me way off guard.
Abus really just must have threw caution to the wind and was like, I gotta put this guy out now for whatever reason.
I was shocked.
Way too rushy and hasty with it. And I think Sean Strickland's patience we were critiquing it at first, but it definitely paid off. And
it absolutely did.
Allowed him to be fresh and stay in this fight when Abus just comes out for the second and he is done. He's
absolutely done.
From the opening bell, he's done. You can see it, and then Sean just starts going to town. And that's really what Strickland does well, is picks people apart, wears them down, and then he walks them down, and like Kurt said, end of round 2, land a couple nice strikes, and then finish them with the strikes on the ground, and it's over. 81 landed, 43% of 188 for Strickland. 47 landed for Abus, 47% of 101. No takedowns for Strickland, 1 of 2 for Abus. Significant strikes were 81 for Strickland, 43% of 188, and 47 for Abus, 47% of 101.
Yeah.
Sean Strickland obviously with the one knockdown that led to the TKO, and that is how my third leg went, as I did use Kurt's bet. So Dawson, Strickland, and Morales finish off the UFC card. The last leg was a part of the boxing event from the Huntington Center in Toledo, Ohio, as undefeated heavyweight Jared Anderson had his real big first test as he took on Martin, who has a lot of professional fights, and really put him in some decent spots, some newer things that we haven't really seen out of Anderson.
Yeah.
His first time being out of the first round.
Yeah.
And this fight does go decision. Anderson does, I would say, dominant. Looks to win a nice
7-3.
Clean,
I liked it 7-3.
Yeah, clean decision win easily for sure. But Toledo actually, 3 guys fought on the main card from Toledo, and Toledo clean sweep 3-0 on that card. So that finishes off my 4-leg parlay with the UFC and boxing. So that was super cool. Had a super nice night and made some money too. So
no complaints there.
No complaints. We hit on the daily bet as Strickland won for Kurt, and we kept it moving.
Oh yeah.
So that'll do it. Another UFC card in the books. Dana keeping it going, getting us
Uncle
through.
Dana.
Getting us through the summer. And it only heats up more with the July 8th card headlined by Volkanovski and Rodriguez. Cannot wait to see that next weekend. Gonna watch pretty much all the fights. As my favorite fighter, Robbie Lawler, his Hall of Fame inductee fight is the feature prelim. So gonna watch all those fights. Super excited for that. We'll have that, obviously, more coverage later. But that will do it for the UFC coverage that
episode 81
we had. And episode 81. Yeah, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and good one. That'll do it. 81 in the books. Hope you guys are enjoying all the new content. Only new things to come as we have some cool things in the works. Just stay up to date with our socials. Like, comment, subscribe, follow. Don't miss our new content because we are coming hard, especially before. We're going hard before the football season. So
before prime time.
We're going hard before that starts. Getting ready. Football, hockey, going to be crazy coverage. Cannot wait for it. You guys don't want to miss it.
Let's ready for it.
Episode 81 in the books. That'll do it. Have a happy, safe,
that's a wrap.
And great 4th of July.
4th of July.
And that will do it. Episode 81.
That'll do it.
Peace.